Okay. Yeah, so without further ado, we'll just kickstart this webinar and we'll just have to start. It's already 4:05, and we're hoping that we'll not elapse 2 hours max. By 6 p.m., we should be able to be done with from our speakers and of course from reactions and questions and every. So yes, everybody, you're welcome. We are delighted to have you, and of course, happy Nigerian Democracy Day. And okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to speak and also admit people to the webinar. So it's like doing two things together, and I want to make sure that I admit as many people as possible that are coming in. Yeah. Okay, yes, like I said earlier on, everybody, you are welcome. And this is Nigerian Democracy Day, June 12th. And we are so excited here at Dean Initiative. We're saying thank you for joining us for this timely, conversation, which we titled Young People Shaping a New Nigerian Democratic Story. Please, can you hear me? Confirm that you can hear me before I proceed.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Blessing Agu, and I am the Strategy and Research Lead within Initiative, and I am so delighted to welcome you as the moderator for today's section. And of course, I have a co-moderator, I don't know if it's here, my colleague, Theophilus Olubade. Yes, so he's here. And like I said, I serve as the strategy and research lead within Initiative, and I am truly honored to, be facilitating this important discussion alongside our great speakers, here in the house. So I would want to just give a brief info about Dean Initiative. So Dean Initiative, we are very much deeply in strengthening democracy, especially at the grassroots level, and then we promote civic education. We empower young people to be active citizens. At Dean Initiative, we're very big on youth power. We believe that youth have the energy, they have the vision. They also have all it takes to really make positive change, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa and in the world as well. So today's conversation, it comes at a critical time in our democratic journey. So we understand that democracy is not just about elections, right? But even though election is like the foundation for democracy, um, democracy it's more of accountability, inclusion, transparency, innovation, and participation, right? And young people should be at the center of it, or they shouldn't be at the sideline. So we are looking at how we're going to be leading movement, creating solutions, holding institutions accountable, and reimagining the governance. So here at this space, we have two very important speakers. One is a woman I really adore so much. She has this substance, she's so full of energy, and when you hear her speak, you get so motivated. The person of I call her the great Ifenla, but I mean her name is Ifenla Onibide. Ifenla Damilola Onigbide. So I don't know. I'm still trying to admit people to the group here. Ifenla Jedidiah Damilola Onigbide. Yes. So she is a lawyer and an inclusion advocate with a focus on women and youth participation in politics. She is the founder of our Arc and Rainbow, Development Foundation, and her work has led us to policy frameworks for greater inclusion, especially in the 2023 Nigerian general election. And she has been mentoring people. I mean, she has mentored over 1,500 women and youth across the country, and she's really dedicated to ensuring that we see that the future generation are empowered, especially women, to take up political and leadership positions here in Nigeria. You're so welcome. We're delighted to have you. And of course, our second speaker, Mr. Shemiye Michael, he is my lead director, my executive director, and I'm so excited to be the one to moderate this section where he will be speaking. Mr. Shemiye Michael is very passionate about youth being at the forefront of development. He's a very big person in promoting youth, empowering young people to take up change. And if you have known Mr. Shemiye Michael before, now you get to know that he's very big on SDG goals, and he has really represented far and wide, nationally, globally, on promoting sustainable development goals, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa and the world. So it is with great delight to really moderate this kind of section where we have these great people in our midst. Once again, everybody, you are welcome. My name is Blessing Agu, and my co-moderator, where is he? Okay, so my co-moderator, Theophilus Olugbade, he'll be joining us soon. I'm sure he's having some technical issues, but of course, when he joins, he will introduce.
Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. So we'll just quickly go into program of today. We're looking at young people shaping a new Nigerian democratic story. Young people shaping a new Nigerian democratic story. Please, I would like to welcome our first speaker, who is the person of the great Ifela. You have the floor. So we're speaking to the topic, and then when we are done, we'll open it up for reactions, contributions, and questions to the public, directed to our two speakers here. Once again, everybody, you're welcome. So yes, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Blessing. I want to be sure that you can hear me. Can you?
Ready. Yes, I can hear you clearly. Oh.
Hi, Blessing. Can you?
It's breaking now. It's breaking now, but I was hearing you initially.
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay. Yes, loud and clear, loud and clear. Hello, everybody. Good evening and happy Democracy Day. I actually went for an event and in civic engagement. If there's anything I've learned in civic engagement, especially within Nigerian community, it is the fact that our democracy or our democratic journey or story is not complete if we do not find a way to align with people from different culture and religion. And I found myself in a space today amongst people who are Muslim, who are Hausas, and I felt, what, I think the only way in which I can blend well with these people is to go this way, right? And I would say that plan, which was really not even it was a last minute decision actually. And I would say that it yielded a great fruit, because even before I started, engaging with the people present, they already had that open space to hear what I wanted to say, because they felt I was one of them. In fact, by the time I said a few Hausa language, Sanu, Yakasuwa Nagode, and all those little Hausa language that helps me, has been helping me here in Abuja. They were surprised to hear that, oh, you're even not an Hausa, you're not a Muslim. And so where I'm going to is that, sincerely, our democratic story or history is not complete if we do not talk about our diversity as a people. And because, yes, going away from the textbook understanding of what democracy is, government of the people, by the people, for the people, there is no people, or we cannot have people without their story. We cannot have people without their background. We cannot have a people without their diversity. We cannot have a people without their story. What makes them people? And anytime I find myself, few times that I've had the opportunity to represent the country out of Nigeria, it's no longer Ifenla, it's no longer my ethnicity, it is Nigeria. And I know people always say Nigerians are proud, Nigerians are loud, and what have you. It's because somewhere, somehow, our value system as Nigerians is the first thing people see when we are out of Nigeria. Unfortunately, when we are within Nigeria, it's as if there's something that makes us forget that thing that makes us Nigeria. So what comes first is our tribe. What comes first is our language. Now, I'm not saying that we should not, I mean, we are talking about democracy and youth, right? I'm really going somewhere. But sincerely, we cannot embrace our uniqueness as Nigerians if we do not accept the fact that, yes, we are diverse. Our religion, our languages make us unique people. But then we are still Nigeria in our very core, in our very being. And I would say that that's possibly the reason why, in fact, it's not even possibly, this is the reason why the ruling party, politicians, and leaders would always find a way to cause division, to cause divide and rule. Why? Because Nigeria doesn't come first for us in Nigeria. So say, for instance, I can find myself in the UK, in US, I'm dressed as someone from South. I am representing Nigeria. I'm not carrying a Yoruba flag. I'm not carrying a South flag, even though I might be dressed as a South person and I'm speaking Yoruba, right? I'm still holding the Nigerian flag. So I feel that this democratic conversation has to start from ourselves as a people. And unfortunately, we are losing track of that. Quite a number of, I think a couple of months ago or thereabout, this popular guy, Tunde Onokoya, like several times, he's been known and he has broken record and he keeps breaking records. But guess what? Anytime we hear news that Tunde has broken a record again, it's no longer about him being Yoruba. It is Tunde, the Nigerian, that everybody embraces. So everybody at that point come together to embrace him. Same thing happened with, what's her name again? Ida Bassi, right? When she broke the Guinness Book of Record. It didn't matter that she was from, she's someone from South. What mattered was that someone representing Nigeria, someone is putting Nigeria out there in the flag or out there in the world. And I feel that it's so unfortunate that people see this unity. In fact, people are always saying, if you do not want to get dragged, do not drag any Nigerian online because all of them will come for you. So if we are able to come for ourselves online, why are we not doing that? Why are we not defending democracy in a united front in Nigeria? So I feel that these are problems, yes, that relate to differences in ethnicity, in language, and whatever. But we have to start looking for solutions before we even talk about participating in politics. Before we even talk about going into office. This conversation can focus on political participation or whatever. But if we lose it at the very foundational point of our diversity as a people, then what are we going to do when we get up there? That means that when someone, a youth, a woman, gets into office, is able to participate, is able to mobilize women and youths to take part in, civic and political engagement, it means that such a person will still carry on with the old, values and old mindsets that those before us have been doing. So I believe that we need to start. Democracy is nothing without the people in it. The definition of democracy is not complete without people in it. And Nigerian people are not complete without us being Nigerians. For now, in as much as we are all Nigerians, we are yet to separate. For now, I know there's conversation about let people separate, let them go to their houses. But as of now, in as much as we are still Nigerians, whether we like it or not, we have to make sure that we defend the honor of Nigeria. Unfortunately, 26 years after, we are at this space where we are talking about women and youth participation in democratic and, in decision-making processes. And that's where I'm going to yield the mic. If we look at and cast our mind as far back as, decades or years ago, when the likes of Buhari, even before Buhari got into power in 2015 and then came back again in 2019. He's been in power before, and he was young. As at that time, he was under 40. Shehu Shagari was under 40. I think MK Abiola, I'm not really sure of his age now, but I think he was he was in his 30s or in his 40s or thereabouts. So youth participation in politics did not start now. It has started as far back as way before 26 years ago. And as of now, a 26 years old man is old enough to get married. A 26 years old woman is old enough to start giving children. So someone who is 26 years old is old enough to start procreating. But Nigeria, as an adult, as a fully blown democratic society, I do not think that we are matured enough to lay on or hand over frameworks or even to start procreating. Why? Because of what I explained initially, our value systems, they are eroding, and it's like we are going back in time. And so, yes, again, beyond a reasonable doubt, I know that we have more elderly people, men in their 60s, in their 70s, in places of authority, in, decision making. I mean, he's not a young person, even though he looks young at heart, right? Yes, it is what it is. But I feel that we need to cast our minds back to how things used to be. Young people used to be involved in decision-making processes. Personally, I used to love the eastern part of Nigerians' decision-making processes and the Yoruba people's decision-making processes. Reason being that in the Yoruba decision-making process then, we used to have the people they called, I've forgotten their name, but there was a terminology in which, if I remember, against the culture, against the norm, the kingmakers, Oyomesi, yes, the Oyomesis will go to the king and tell the king to do what they call shigbaing. Shigbaing is a process, it's a Yoruba word, but I turn it to English. It is shigba in Yoruba, but it means opening a calabash. And what that means is as soon as that king opens that calabash, it is death. It is like immediate death for that king, especially for a king who has been seen not to be transparent, a king who is not accountable, a king who maybe has been involved in several malpractices or what have you. So that means that even as that before we were colonized, we'd had our own structure. That was for the Yoruba. For the Igbos, they had their structure too. The men had their decision making, even the women. It's funny that we are talking about women in decision making processes as if, it's never been that. I would say that in Nigeria, in those years, in those days, women used to be involved in decision making. The women had their own, even the youth also had their own, right? So it's sad that we have westernization again. As good as westernization is, it has divided us of not really going in tandem with our root system. And there's a whole lot of wonderful and amazing things, even in our culture and tradition, that I feel we should not totally throw away. Think about the Northerners. Queen Amina, for instance. Queen Amina was, although I cannot remember her age for now, but I don't think she was in her 40s or 50s as at that time when she was in decision making, right? Anyone of this day and age must have heard about Queen Amina from the Hausa speaking, place of Nigeria, and as well as, several other females like that. There are several other females from the South, the old Benin Kingdom, even Ile-Ife. There are women. There is the Efushetu Aniwura, even though she was known to be a slave trade person. But what I'm trying to say is that women in decision-making processes did not start, or needing to have women in decision-making did not start now. In fact, democracy did not start 26 years ago. It started long before colonization came in. So the reason why I'm going back to our roots, our culture, our tradition is because Nigeria, before we became Nigeria, when we all had our father's name as per you, you are from the western part of Nigeria, you're from the eastern part of Nigeria, you're from the northern part of Nigeria, where we had the Sultan of Sokoto and the rest of them. There was democracy, right? Now, I'm not saying that we didn't have issues of autocratic rulers in those days. Oh, we had them. But then those autocratic rulers also had their own, fall. The way they fell like massively. And there was representation. There was youth representation. There was women's participation. People, even though, of course, they had the oracles that came together that would decide this is the person that would represent the people. But most of the time, the oracle's words and voice in those days, it was the voice of the people. And then everybody would say, oh, yes, we accept what the oracle has said because this is what we all want. Is that not representation? Right? So when we talk about democracy, I feel we need to look at democracy from the point of view of we as Africans and we as Nigerians. Democracy, I would say it again, did not start now. It started as far back as those days before colonization. And unfortunately, the people that colonized us, their democracy is now even better than our own democracy. So what are we talking about? So we need to go back to our roots. We need to embrace ourselves as Nigerians. We need to embrace our identity as Nigerians, embrace our diversity. The fact that I'm not from a particular tribe does not mean that I cannot have something to pass on. And it does not mean that I cannot represent the people of Nigeria. I think that I would like to stop and yield the mic here. Thank you very much. Once again, happy Democracy Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So for the benefit of people who are just coming in, you're welcome. And we just heard from the great Ifenla Jedediah Damilola Oligbide. So yeah, she is our first speaker for today's webinar first section. And then some of the things she talked about is that one of the major issue that is really hindering our democracy and involvement of young people in democratic processes here in Nigeria is westernization, right? So young people are so okay, so she just talked about the westernization and how young people are so immersed with, the way the world is changing, and it's kind of somehow reducing or limiting young people to channeling their interest into whatever democratic process is happening in the country. And then she also made mention that yes, democracy is not new. It did not start today. It did not start some years ago. It didn't even start 26 years ago. It started long, before now. And she also said the oracle, back in those are traditional settings and traditional way of life where we have the oracle and all of that speaks, that if you still notice it, the oracle speaks the voices of the people. It's because it says exactly what the people want to hear. It says what the people want to know. It promotes inclusion per se. So this is some of the points that we have gotten from the great Ifenla. So this is for people who are just coming in, and you are welcome. So we're going to quickly go into the second speaker, what the second speaker would speak, and then after that we'll open it up for questions, contributions, reactions, whatsoever. It promises to be so engaging. Once again, you're welcome. So yeah, permit me to welcome my executive director, my lead director, my leader here at the initiative, Mr. Shemie Michael. For people who are just coming in, Mr. Shemie Michael is very big on promoting youth empowerment. He's big on promoting youth inclusion, youth being at the table, youth power, youth. So he is a social justice activist, and he's also a campaigner for youth involvement, and he promotes education development, goals, education development planning and processes, education reforms. And some of us also know that he's very big on promoting democracy and governance, especially open
can I begin to
government.
speak?
Okay, yes. My lead director is too humble. He doesn't like when people introduce him too much. So, yes, sir, you are free. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I've enjoyed Ifenla amazingly. She has spoken to history. She has spoken to a lot of contextual valid points. I just wanted to start with a very simple opinion pool that I call Nigeria and me. So I'm going to just launch the pool. Just let's use 1 minute to do it. So can you see it on your screen?
Yes, it has popped up.
So has everybody participated? I think we have only 9 people that have participated. And we're 13 on the call. Some people are thinking what to choose. They don't want to choose what is bad. They want to look good. Okay. So let's assume that we go with what we have on the screen. We have 10 people who responded. I'll hand the poll. Let me share the result with you. So basically it seems like we have more people who still believe that Nigeria is a country to believe in. And even the people who have a different opinion express it in such a way that they just feel tired about the country. Nothing so much, but just tiredness, we're just tired. And that, I think that explains perfectly what's wrong with a lot of people in the country. So especially young people. And it's just a pity that some of us, it now seems that age is no longer our friend. And when they say young people should come out, we are now ashamed to come out. Even though we don't want to grow old, we want to continue to be in the league of Dennis. And see how Ifenla rocks her young personality all across the world, and quite a number of other young people. But the truth is, I think we're tired, but we have history globally, especially in Nigeria. We have history of how Nigeria has consistently, from time, behind, messed up people's expectation. And we've seen people who at one point or the other have stood for something by creating either a movement, they've created actions, they've created ideas that have shifted, boundaries. Let me say, when you think about Nigeria story, let's use the chat box. Who in the history of Nigeria as a young person, you may not now remember them as a young person because you know them as, adults. But who can you trace that in their youthful age, they contributed amazingly to Nigerian democracy, democratic development? Who comes to your mind that you can put the name of the person in the chat box? I remember when this person was a young person, he or she contributed to Nigeria's democratic development. Who comes to your mind? There are quite a number of people who had made certain effort. Sowore, thank you so much. Sowore has, from university days, I give it to that guy, Sarowiwa, Ken Sarowiwa. That's another person who, for the purpose of Tinubu, yeah, Tinubu, bless you, why are you laughing? Tinubu fought, uh, Tinubu fought for democracy, no matter how you want to look at it. Who again comes to your mind? Who again comes to your mind? You don't have any women that comes to your mind. Wole Soyinka. This person is Blessing. What is wrong with you? Obasanjo, at what time in his life? Olufunmilayo Ransom Kuti. Yeah. Dura Kunyili. These people, they stood for something. They made sacrifices that were daring to their life, yet they stood for something. They created, changes. They shifted systems, even at the detriment of their life. Ganifawe Hime, you can say that again. Atiku, I don't know that. Yeah. So, Fela, yeah, you are talking. Fela used all his life. Fela used all his life. They did. Fela used all his life and then we have today in the modern Nigerian, let's come to the modern Nigeria. Who among the young people in the modern Nigeria that comes to your mind that, that also have contributed immensely? Yeah. MQ Abiola traded that even with his life. Anthony Enahoro, thank you. Let's come to the modern days. Who comes to your mind among young people in today's Nigeria that you think have, acted to shape, a new democratic value for Nigeria? Whose name comes to your mind in today's democracy? Agbajalingo, that guy from Cross River, I think. Yeah. I know that guy. Yes, indeed. So Samson Itodo, great. Who comes to mind again? Who comes to mind again? VDM, yeah. People might not like him, but Aisha Yesufu, Amzad Lawa, yeah. And thank you. The modern day, well done, blessings. Thank you. Semiya Michael, where did you see me? Thank you. Even Ifenla has demonstrated great strength more than somebody like me. She had contested election. She had flagged, parties, she had formed a political party. These are people who had been courageous. And this is what we want. I am reading a book, Citizenship, at the moment. It tells the story of how young people defied their pain, their sadness, and are shifting boundaries, making things to happen. And I read about a particular lady who had to build a new movement in her country, even though she was enjoying the best of time in the UK. She went back to India, fought, the system, built a new political party that created a new ideology. I read about another lady who moved from the US back to Germany to also lead a new national frontier for a new kind of political party that, give credence to the yearning of the people. So globally, the young people are taking action irrespective. And one big thing that seems to be we're missing is the fact that in Nigeria, I think we've allowed our frustration to cloud us much more than our energy to invent solutions to our immediate problems. And I think it is part of the situation is the fact that we are, like Ifenla said, we are a people of communal closeness. Because our allegiance and loyalty to our communal identity seems to promote our attitude to cover up for our kinsmen that do not do good in government. And as a result of that, it foils our ability to create movement that changes process. Because if we're creating a movement, once the people affected by the movement have so much alliance with people within the movement, that movement fizzles away quickly. If there is one thing that you will not take away from the EndSARS protest immediately, was the fact that it was leaderless, kind of. So there were no people to pin down, and there were no people who could emotionally attach themselves to people who are affected by the EndSARS movement. Okay, so today we have a big issue about building a movement, because once we're building a movement and you are part of the movement, and the movement begins to tilt towards affecting someone that is dear to you, maybe your uncle, maybe somebody in your community that seems to be someone you would not want to go down. Just take for example, I think this week, in the course of the week, there is a revelation at the National Assembly where they are making an investigation that under the watch of the Ministry of Aviation during Buhari's tenure, 2 Nigerian military helicopters were sold. And they were to be they declared them to be auctioned within 2 weeks. They perfected the process and auctioned 2 military helicopters at the cost of, I think, $1.5 million to private individuals. You can imagine. And then I think I was talking about it earlier in the afternoon, and then somebody was saying beside me that because I saw the military men who came to the National Assembly to talk about how bitter they were, how angry they were, how could they sell 2 helicopters that were supposed to be fighter equipment, and soldiers were dying, and Nigerians were dying, and these helicopters could have helped also, support in the fighting system. And then my brother that we're talking together was like, oh, do you know maybe the reason why the military man was even hungry was the fact that when they sold the thing, they did not share it for him, or he did not benefit from the proceed of the sale, and this is most times this is the situation that does not allow movement to to stand in the course of the new Nigerian democratic landscape. So I think as young people, as we also lead some of this conversation, as we blame most of the people who obviously are responsible for the woes of our country, we must also begin to hold ourselves accountable in real sense, because will you still want to fight for democracy if your brother is one of the people who are ruining the system? Will you still want to fight for democracy if your father is one of the people ruining the system? If your uncle, if your village man, if someone close to you is part of the people ruining the system, and there is a way the ruining this person is committing is being beneficial to you in one way or the other, will you still want to participate in, rebelling, against such process? Because it we can only pretend not to be happy, but when the chips are down, and you benefit from the proceed of what is wrong in the system, will you still go ahead to want to hold the system accountable? We need to be able to ask ourselves these questions and provide honest feedback, to it. So I think I'll use the mic as well now, and later I'll probably will just give some of the examples of actions that I believe we can begin to try.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Shemie Michael. That was a very, very engaging and very insightful section with you. And one of the things that we picked from what he said is that we young people need to start holding ourselves accountable. As we blame people who are running the system, we should also try to reflect and ask ourselves if we will be able to also fight for democracy and try to promote democracy if our family member is in power there and also trying to ruin the system, and the ruling is benefiting us. So when it's benefiting you, would you be able to also want to stand up and fight against that is fighting democracy? So this is one of the insights that we have gotten from Mr. Shemie Michael today, and thank you so much. So I would just want to ask a couple of questions, and then we have it open for deliberations, questions, contribution. Meanwhile, you can make use of the chat board. You could just put in some of your contributions, and then before we make the mic open for everybody. So yes, I have some questions here. I will start with Ifenla Onibide. I just wanted to ask, what inspired you, to start your journey in civic engagement and in political advocacy, especially for young women? What inspired you?
I think I was, I won't say that what inspired me started from, recent years. I would say that I've been inspired as far back as when I was in university, right? And right from when I was in university, I was that student that would hardly, you might not find me in the library, but you would most likely find me in committees. I studied law, by the way, and so it's either you find me in what we call the Moot and Mock. That was the committee that represented the faculty and went for competitions and and what have been more like a mockery of an actual court person. So it was either you found me on such committees or a theater act committee. I was in, acting or editorial committee and what have you. So I had always been very, very engaged as far back as when I was in the university. Fast forward to when I left the university, when I got to, I went for service. I was selected to represent. I was, well, I won't say selected, so to speak, but more like during my NYSC, I joined the NCCF and I was in charge of the whole state, drama subgroup. I did that for a whole year. When I went for law school, also, I was in a committee. So I would say that leadership engagement has always, it was either I was following it or it was following me. And even as at when I left university, and of course, as someone who studied law, it was expected that, okay, maybe I'll practice. I did that for a couple of years, but I discovered that community works got me more fulfilled than chasing law cases and saying my lord objection and stuff like that in courts, right? And apart from that, I discovered that I didn't just want to follow cases, even though I knew that injustice was something, or fighting for justice was something that was a core for me. I was that person that might not really fight for my rights, but then you would always find me fighting for other people's rights, fighting for underdogs. I've always done that and gotten in trouble doing that almost all my life, right? So I would say that I wanted to be part of a system that would make things easier for people, because I saw that being a lawyer was really not working, because people who have money, people who could hire lawyers that could help them, we're getting justice, so to speak. So I felt, why not be part of a system or work with organizations, volunteer with them, so that you'll be part of a system, if not creating frameworks that will make people and youths, be part of decision-making processes. And I think I told you that I met Mr. Semi as far back as 2020. But on retrospect, when he was speaking, I discovered, it was even way before that. As at 2019, World's Greatest Lesson or World's Greatest Largest Lesson. I'm sure you would remember as far back as that time. So I'd always been thirsty about being involved in civic and community engagement. So that was where it started for me. It was community engagement, people at the grassroots first. And the more I learned, the more I discovered better ways, to make things work, and better ways to allow women and youth be part of decision-making processes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so very much. Community work got you more fulfilled. It was more about community work first, engaging people at the grassroots level. Thank you so much. So, and that was a question, that was an answer to the question on what inspired her to start the journey of civic, engagement. So she had explained that it was back from school, and then she, as someone who studied law, so she noticed that engaging more with the people at the grassroots, promoting their rights and all of that made her more fulfilled than practicing law per se, right? Thank you so much for that question. I actually have one more question for you before I turn to Mr. Shemi and Michael, but I don't know, but let me just ask you this question so that I can just fully, turn to Mr. Shemi. So my question is, at what point, because I noticed you contested in the 2023 general election, okay, you were part of the candidates, right? Yes. So at what point in life did you realize that, young people need to really get involved in maybe political processes or democratic processes here in Nigeria? At what point did you realize that as a young person you should maybe run for election, and maybe from there try to see if you can make some positive change in Nigeria? At what was like the turning point? What was that? Yeah.
I think again, it would still go back to when I was in the university. And ironically, I didn't start off as studying law. I actually started off studying political science.
Okay.
But because as at its year I wrote JAM, I wasn't given law. law was not accredited in universities for that year. So I decided, I remember my dad of blessed memory, we were just going through the, the JAM portfolio profile, or what do they call it? And we just felt, okay, what is closest to law? And my father said, you know what, you like to talk. You and I argue about politics. Just do political science and let's see how far that would go. So I did that for a year. I contested for class captain. And I remember someone telling me, don't you know you're a female? You shouldn't be contesting for class captain. Contest for something like maybe deputy class captain or something like that. But I can't even remember how the thing went. In fact, I think I just lost interest in it. And fast forward to 2019, I ran for office under the Young African Leaders Initiative Network, Yali Abuja, and I won as PRO. I was elected as PRO in that year. A year later, I was appointed as an ESCO, a national ESCO of the African Democratic Congress. And I discovered that being an ESCO, a national ESCO at that, was not just enough. Because I discovered far back at home, people were always telling me, there is life after being a national ESCO. What do you want to come back? You are just there in Abuja, making things work, deciding things, yes. But there is life after being a national ESCO. And, it just started bringing different ideas to my mind. In fact, way before then, the party was open to youth and women representation. But I would say that it was around 10 years that time that I encouraged my colleagues and told them, see, we can't just be happy in saying it's 2 or 3 of us. And it was just 2 or 3 of us. We had 2 youth leaders and myself that were young within the national ESCO. We should not be happy in just being happy that we are the youngest. We should get more people. And we designed a project that time. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to be a signpost that would just be there and guide people in how to. Let me also step in it and see how it would be done or how it can be done. And that was what led to me running for office. I won my primaries. I practically went back to my states, did all the what have you, won my primaries, and had to step down when my life was being threatened and what have you. I mean, long story, but I would say that was it for me. But it was a win-win, even though I decided to step down. A win-win in the sense that having been part of the of core politics for 3 years, from 2020 to 2023, I saw what negotiation could do for you as a political leader. You should be able to negotiate your rights, negotiate your terms. And I said, you know what? These new people coming from another party that wants me and others to step down, I don't know what they want, but for me, I want to be part of my gubernatorial candidate's campaign team. If not, I'll make trouble for you people, and it's my decision. What I wanted, was what happened. And it also helped me meet more people, be part of more decision making, because I felt I don't want to just be that person that would say, oh, I ran for office, I stepped down, and then I'll just come back to Abuja. No, I'm in this thing for a reason. I want to be in it till the end of the elections. And that was it for me. So in the long run, it was a win-win for me, because I learned a whole lot of things that I wouldn't have learned if I was just a national officer of the party.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing some of those your life, personal experiences. And I'm sure we've learned a lot and 1 or 2 things from you on that aspect. So I will quickly want to turn to Mr. Shemiye Michael. Mr. Shemiye Michael. Okay, so I just wanted to ask, my first question is, because we are looking at young people shaping a new Nigerian democratic story. So I know Ifela has already talked about some kind of challenge that young people would face, in trying to shape the democratic story here in Nigeria. But can you maybe elaborate more on some of those biggest challenges that you think young people are facing, or young people will face, or young people, face in trying to engage, or in trying to shape our democratic story, or in trying to engage in governance, processes, democratic processes, or any political kind of process? So those kinds of biggest challenges that young people face, and how do you think, these young people can really overcome those challenges in today's Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's again, let's give it to Ifenla. Unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity to actually applaud ourselves as a people. And there are a lot of people you like what they are doing, you like their effort, but you cannot just be calling them every day and say, hey, guy, I like you, you are doing well. It will turn to be rubbish. Otherwise, Ifenla, I've seen her at a distance, far, and she's one of those few young people that I always admire her energy. She doesn't. I think she just lives her life without um, her, maybe a lot of people live at the mercy of people's endorsement, people's validation before they feel good, but I think she's just she loves herself and she doesn't care if anybody loves her. So I think I appreciate that a lot, and that tells some of the courageous steps you have taken within the political landscape as a young person. I'm not sure a lot of young people will have the same courage, especially in Ogun State. Those people are terrible. So kudos to you and the effort you have made so far. Let's look at, I think one of the biggest challenge for young people within the democratic space is knowledge gap. There is a huge knowledge gap. The democratic process is so cumbersome and is so technically weaved that it takes more than aggression to be able to, do well within the democratic process and shaping. For example, our electoral law, a lot of people who goes into political, corner do not take time to understand the electoral, law process. And that's why you see at the end of every election, we now have hundreds of election litigations because people do not take time to actually understand how porous the electoral law, the electoral guidelines, how porous it has been created and produced. Okay, so I want a situation where youth movements, youth actions can begin to take cognizance of, if we're going to build coalition, if we're going to build movement, if we're going to build actions, it should start from as simple as mobilizing action for a more coherent electoral law that is simple, straightforward, and unambiguous. Okay, so the current electoral reform process that is going on, there is still a very, very small youth participation, very small youth voice that is, that is fostering in that process. Okay, the law at the end of the day is the end of the game. And that is why you see the INEC chairman could boldly say, go to court, because it is the law at the end of the day that is going to end the game. We've seen people in Nigeria who became governor who didn't even contest, who were not even on the ballot for election. Okay, we've seen senators who didn't participate in primary election, but they are now in the Senate. Okay, so if you don't understand the electoral, electoral guideline, electoral law, the electoral process, young people will continue to look at, the abracadabra that happens within the political space and wonder that, it's a popular saying, the more you look, the less you see.
The less
So
you see.
how do we build movements? How do we build actions? How do we curate, youth networks that will advocate for a more open electoral law, a straightforward electoral law? The other time we were talking about a simple English in our electoral, law that say and FCT, and see the way they began to interpret and say, because of, and they began to, every one of us speak English, and you begin to wonder that what is another meaning of and that is not the meaning of and, so understanding this is very critical. It's very critical. One of the things we have tried to build is to see how do we demystify the complexity around our electoral law and process for people to be able to understand how to come in. Okay. Another, so the knowledge gap in this regard is huge, much more for young people. Another aspect I really wish young people will also understand is community action for election, guard is very important. Okay, community action for election guard. And I use the word guard because it's a security process. Okay, so we have left election observation activities for international organizations who do not have stake in our election, who either the outcome of the election is good or is bad, they will only write a report and go back to their country. The actual people who will benefit from the election, we are the one, and we are the one that should mount the highest level of election observation. At the lowest level, youth groups should begin to coordinate election observation, coalitions, where we will stay with our election results, the counting process, the transmission of the result from one level to the other, understanding the processes and guard the process, because it is our election. It is, the outcome of our election is going to tell on us, rather than, ECOWAS mission, who are those even election observation, BBC or
European Union.
European Union,
Mhm.
Kofi Annan, these people will just write reports, make international comments and go back to their country. The aftermath of what happens in the election, we are the one that will bear the brunt. So how many stages of election result collation processes do we have? We have collation process first at the polling unit. From the polling unit, we have the rack. From the rack, we have the local government. From the local government, if it is national, we have from the local government, we have the state collation center. And from the state, if it is a national election, we have the federal collation center. Each of these stages, things that happens in them, you cannot imagine. And these places, nobody stays at the polling unit. Most times, people do not even stay until some people just cast their ballot and they go. We need young people who build election observation coalitions that will be present at every stages of result collation processes. From polling unit, see, youth election observation coalition should follow the result to registration area collation centers. Okay, that is world level collation centers. Follow them there in your coalition and in your groups. And we have young people on this program now who also are wondering, what type of action can I take in strengthening our democracy, in strengthening our electoral processes. These are critical areas where we can build actions. Okay, build groups, talk about it, let it be replicated. You know, actions that are scalable. When they see that it happens in Abuja, maybe it happens in only one local government, people hear about it. They will say, some groups are in so place in Abuja, they did this, let us do that also. It will happen again in Jalingo, it will happen again in Kaduna, it will happen again in, before you know it, it might take time, but it will become a culture, an electoral or political culture that people who play games with our elections will begin to know that there's no hiding place. Once result moves from polling unit to registration area center, they change results because nobody is at that place. It's only the what they used to call them, PO, political polling unit officer, is the only person who is there with the party, the leading party agent and their thugs. And then you see what the result that was collated at the polling unit, by the time it appears at the local government collation center, it has been totally different. Nobody, no citizen representation was there at the registration collation center to defend and stand with the result of the election. Wrong thing will be transmitted to the local government. From there, they manipulate again, sent to the state, and that is how things get scattered. First, bridging the knowledge gap on electoral processes, electoral law, and electoral guidelines. Second, young people building movements on election observation activities to protect election results from polling units to registration center to local government collation center to state collation center and upward, like that. The third thing I would suggest also is that how do young people begin to build alternative result, advocacy for alternative result collation processes. These traditional result collation processes allows too much fraud to take place. Allow too much fraud to take place. Can you imagine that our election result, the way it moves from now they even hire professors. The professor will now sit, will now talk, will now carry a paper, and they will now charter plane for him, will now carry it to Abuja. What was that? What's that? It's something that they will enter into a digital platform, and then the figure will appear. Everybody will see the figure. Can't you see how election results are being tabulated in the US? Everybody in the world is watching how the number is increasing. It's increasing. So we must build movement that will begin to advocate for alternative result collation processes. If they don't want to use technology, let us use something that is more sensible than what we are doing now. It costs too much. What they are doing now, it costs too much and is less effective. It encourages too much fraud. Okay, so these are some of the areas that young people have to step up actions to be able to participate in a democracy that will serve us in the best interest of our collective development in our country. Thank you. Let me use the mic also now. Borrowing language. Thank you, man.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shemi and Mike. You could feel that passion, coming from him. How this is it. I mean, that's why he's always like, oh, I'm very big on youth power. So a lot has been said. Knowledge gap, this is one very big challenge, according to Mr. Shemia Michael, that young people face, in getting themselves involved with democratic processes and then shaping the democratic story here in Nigeria, today's Nigeria. So knowledge gap, there is need for us to see how we can mitigate that issue. And then the second one is that young people need to begin to take election processes very important, right from observing the election to guiding the processes from the polling units down to the result collation center and to the result announcement center as well. So young people need to see how they can get involved from this point to the end point. And then, of course, how we can build coalition as young people. Young people need to really come together and have one voice. So yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Shemi and Michael, for those submissions. So yes, now it is open for everybody. It is open. Please, if you have some contribution, you can just unmute. Okay, I'm seeing one person has raised his hand. Please, you have 2 minutes to just give your submission. If it's a question, you can give your question. If you want to say ask the question at the chat box, please, you can make use of the chat box as well. Yes, Samson, you have the floor, please. Samson Dennis.
Quickly, I have to wait. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Well, my first question is directed to Ma Ifenla. Okay, you earlier talked about youth involvement and how you were able to go back to your own state to contest for a political office. I don't know, my case is a bit like complex. I was born and brought up in Borno State, live in Nasarawa, live in Abuja, and stayed a little while in Benue State. So I was really wondering, how were you able to make your decision of going back to your state to involve in political activities? Because it's a really tough decision for me right now because I've stayed in all my life in several states in Nigeria. And my second question is to Sashimi and Michael. Recently, I was part of the YLDP program by Leap Africa as an undergraduate, and we are almost at the end. We are currently at the community project stage. And I was studying about the national youth policy, and I found out that a great number of youths don't even know what youth policy is. I carried out a survey in University of Abuja. And this is like something meant for the youth. You were talking about the knowledge gap. So I feel like so many of these documents are not emotionally attached to the youth, and so many of them are not even aware that there is something like this, a roadmap that is created for them. So my question is, how then can we make documents such as this very easily? I don't even have much knowledge concerning the national youth policy, and you're talking so much about the electoral reform, which is something very big again.
Okay, at some point your line was breaking, but I don't know if Mr. Shemia was able to get the question. But I'm sure the first question was channeled to Ifenda. So I don't know, something, can you maybe retype the second question? Because at some point your voice was breaking. You could just retype it at the chat box. Why, that's the chat section. Why Ifenda answers the first question, if that's fine. Ifenda, can you hear us?
Yes. Should I go ahead now?
Okay. Maybe we should just take all of the questions and then we'll just, we'll just tackle it once and for all. Yes. So Fasasi, yeah, your hand is up. After Fasasi, then we have Suleiman, Mande, my okay, we have Chimezie. We have 3 hands up now. So Fasasi, Suleiman, and then Chimezie. Yes, please.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. Welcome.
All right. Well done, Blessing. And shout out to Mr. Shemia Michael. Mr. Shemia Michael has been one of the leaders I admired for a very long time. I was also one of the SDG action, I think in 2019, 2018, thereabout. And that was the first time I was at the the SDG house in Gwalada. So Mr. Shemia Michael is an unsung hero. So, and he deserves all the flowers that is due to him. So my regards and accolades to him. And also my leader, Miss Ifenla, Ambassador Ifenla Jedidiah Onigbede. I called her my boss, the founder of Akan Rainbow Development Foundation. And she paid me 150,000 naira last month. So, and I know that the minimum wage is not up to 150,000. So she's my boss. My regards to her. Okay, so my own 2 cents regarding the democracy, most especially in an heterogeneous society like Nigeria, and how we can preserve a long-lasting and enduring democracy, not just for us, but for the generation that is coming behind us. And when you look at Mr. Shemia Michael's, position, he talks a lot about forming a coalition, coming up with a group. We have a group like National Democratic Coalition that gave birth to the transition from the military regime to the civil rule. Those are the people that fought for democracy in this country. And we have another generation of people that fought the colonial masters, So there are generations after generations that has been fighting for the souls of our country. So those that fight for against the colonial rules and those that fight for against the military.
Okay, at some point it was breaking. I don't know, maybe you could just start again,
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, I think it's network. So I was trying to say that I want to start my contribution by starting from what Mr. Shemia Michael said, that there's a need to form a group, a coalition, and a group of people that actually, a coalition of a group. So I was now talking about there are people in this country that fought for against the colonial rules. So for us to gain the independence from the British, some people fought against it. And there's also some people that fought against the military rule, that we transition from the military regime to the civil rule. We have the likes of, that is when we talk about the NADECO movement, the National Democratic Coalition. These are a set of young people, most of them are old now, that fought for democracy to be installed in our country. So what remains is for us to preserve democracy so that the principles of democracy will be upheld by all of us as a collective. The principles of liberty, the principles of justice, and the pursuit of happiness will be upheld by each and every one of us. Now, the question is that how can we come up with this movement? We have light numbers of people on this platform, because what I believe, I think it was JF Kennedy that said, let no man think of what his country would do for him. Let he think of what he could do for his country. That's JF Kennedy. So I think in this platform, we can come up with, a coalition is not by the most populous or the popular, people in the country that we know. A coalition can be formed by people to oversight the democratic principle. And now we continue to preserve democracy. Because what we are facing in our country and Africa as a whole is the erosion of democracy. Democracy has been eroded. And that is why some African countries are beginning to break out from that democratic fold, saying they are not interested again. So we can form that coalition here. We have Mr. Sulaiman Mande on this platform. We have Blessing Hagu on this platform. We have the great ambassador Jedidiah Olibide on this platform. We have Mr. Shemia Michael on this platform. We have different kind of minds on this platform. the great movement of generations are not formed by popular people, and we are popular in our own right. You understand? If they mention Fasasi Sodi, they can know me, maybe I behave like a gangster, but yet we have people that have the power for us to continue to oversight democracy and make sure democracy does not slip away from our hands. If some generation fought against the colonial rules and some generation fought against the military rule, some generations should preserve the democratic rule. So that is my question. So I think the formation of those coalitions that Mr. Semiye Michael mentioned should start from this particular call tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fasasi Sodiq. Let us start this coalition. It should start tonight. I love that energy. Thank you so much for that submission. Yes, we'll go to Mr. Suleiman Monday. Honestly, we have time because we're supposed to end this webinar by 6 p.m. So, I mean, if we end before then, that would be great. But let's just take as many submissions as possible. Yes, Mr. Suleiman Monday, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, everyone. Blessing, thank you so much, Mr. Semi. Thank you, sir. And Ifela, thank you so much. Mr. Sadiq, thank you as well. I think I'll just have to speak directly to Mrs. Ifela's presentation about diversity, which I think is the crux of our issue, because, if you look at the whole concept of democracy, it's about, embracing diversity. Not only embracing it, but appreciating and celebrating it in a way that, people come together that are from different backgrounds, from different ethnic backgrounds, from different religions, in order to believe in an idea. Not only to believe in it, but to actually work to build it in a way that everybody benefits. Like if you look at the case of a country like United States of America, for example, and most Western countries, you see there is this element of diversity that help them build a society that works, not only for only some few people, but for everyone, right? So I think I'll just make a suggestion. This very call is an important step towards like building that kind of platform that give room for conversations, like broader conversations with young people, in order to embrace the idea of accepting this concept of diversity. An example is like myself and my brother who just spoke, like for Sadiq, like I'm Hausa, right, from the north. He's Yoruba, I think, from the south. And this is not like the first time that we met. We shared ideas, we had our own disagreements and all that, we disagree on many issues, but then that does not negate the fact that we should not come together to sit in one room to discuss ideas on how to move the country forward, like what we are doing right now. Yeah. So I think this idea of like embracing diversity, this is something that we should continue to push, because if you look at our problem, at the very root of it is this idea of disunity. Everybody wants to be seen as the best or above the other, right? And no country, no community, no family thrives like that. I think, yeah, I'm glad that we have this call, and I'm glad that I'm able to contribute on all the contributions. I think we can maybe like the suggestion on the coalition. If we can make that work, yeah, that's perfectly okay. Then we can continue to push on this idea of having broader conversation, because democracy also is all about debates, like debating good ideas. Although we don't believe in ideological politics in Nigeria, but I think this is something that we can work towards to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, my Oga. I call him my Oga because I've learned under his footstool. Thank you, Mr. Suleiman Mandi, for that submission. There is really need for us to come together as young people with one voice. Yes, so Chimezie, yeah, over to you. You have the floor. Please unmute.
All right. Good day, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's been an insightful session so far. So, my question is to Mr. Michael. So, he made mention of how young persons can actually, in terms of during election, how we can mobilize ourselves, follow up our votes from the polling units to the collection center to the LGA and the rest. And oftentimes we've tried to do that in elections, but then you usually see how the political parties or even the governments use military. They militarize everything, right? And not many young persons would have that, would I say, morale or strength to me. I mean, you see a man carrying gun or wielding gun, you can't enter a place without them giving you access. So how do we navigate this situation of militarization of our election collection center? Like you mentioned, these are the places where this election gets changed, right? At the collection center, at the world level, or at the local government. These are where this results gets changed. And sometimes you are not even allowed access there as a young person, as a normal citizen. Usually, people who are allowed access are party agents and probably election observers. But for citizens themselves, hardly do they give them access to this election collation center. So, and because they use police and military to barricade this place. So, how can we overcome this militarization of our election collation process and centers? Thank you.
Yeah. So I think you were asking the question, Chimeze, what do you young people do? Because when you leave the the polling unit, and then you get to the collation center, most of these people are not given access, right? So is this a question or what? This is a question, right? Chimeze, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Chimeze is asking the
I
question, because
got
what
his
do you do
question.
when young people are not given access to, yes, to the collation center? So one more hand, we have the Olumide Kemi Esther. Olumide Kemi Esther, you have the floor, and then we're just going to open it up for the speakers to speak.
Good evening, everyone.
Olumide.
Yeah, my name is Olumide Kemi Esther from Ekiti State. I'm so excited to participate in this program. So, when we talk about democracy in political participation, we know that we are youth.
Kemi, we cannot hear you. The line is breaking.
Hello, ma.
Okay, we can hear you now. Great.
Okay, in participation, the number of youths are very low, let alone of talking to women. As Mrs. Ifenla, as she said, I know that she have faced a lot of challenges in this career of political aspects. There's a lot of challenges. Though I just want to say that youth and women, we should participate in political stuff, and we should let our voice to be heard. And Mr. Sadiq has said earlier that this thing can start from us. We have a large of numbers in the group. We can start this thing from the group. Hello.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, we can hear you,
Yes, we can start
so
this
we should start
mobilization
together
from the group.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you so much. I think I understand what you're saying. We should start now as young people. We should form this group, and have one voice, and have one goal. Thank you so much for that submission, Madam Kemi from, I don't know, but thank you. So yes, we have one more person raise up his hand. Adetomiwa Victor. I hope I pronounced that way. Please, you have the floor.
Yes, you did. Thank you. It's Adetomiwa Victor. Good evening.
Thank you.
So my question is very similar to one of the questions I've seen here in the chat box, but I still feel like I need to provide more clarity. The person in the chat box asks, how can we make such critical issues be attractive to youths? Because many are just not disconnected but uninterested. And I would like to applaud everybody on this call, because I think it takes a lot of optimism to even believe that something can come out of youth participation in politics in Nigeria, because the narrative that most Nigerian youths have is not just the narrative of, okay, youths cannot do anything with regards to politics in the world. I mean, most Nigerian youths believe that they have something to provide and to bring to the table with regards to politics, but that the system that we have will just not let it work that day. So I don't think it is that Nigerian youths do not believe in Nigeria as a country, but our systems are failed in so many ways that it is very difficult to still be optimistic about it. So my question now is, what illustration, what example can I give to the average Nigerian youth? I'm sure most of us on this call are the exception. We are the people who we've probably been in places where we've provided one sort of contribution or the other that has affected maybe policies and has brought about change that we can always use to provide insights to ourselves personally and to other people who have had similar experiences. But the average Nigerian youth will tell you that this thing doesn't work this way. And even if you try to put into effort towards changing something, you'll be shut down by one system that is not functioning well, or somebody who is just against the change you are trying to bring about, even if that change is positive. So what evidence can we provide to people like that? What is it we can do to change their mind? Because one thing that was peculiar to the NSAS movement was not just that, I don't think it was just that they wanted to end the SARS itself. It was that people were tired of the whole situation, and that because it was related to life, they could no longer take it anymore. And then everybody was just like, okay, we don't care what we have to lose to make this change happen. We are going to do it once and for all. And I think because it is related to life, it is very clear what you have to gain and lose. So that's why many people participated in. But with things related to policies and things that we cannot directly describe to the average Nigerians, what example can we use to show them that, okay, if you take your time to come and do this, if you take your time to participate in this, you'll be actually making a difference. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. So now I think we'll have like 3 questions and then so many submissions. Mr. Suleiman Mande, you want to say something else before we call on our speakers to just help us out with these questions, to help us answer these questions?
No, I think I have said all I wanted to say. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So we'll just call on Miss Ifela Onibide and then Mr. Shemie Michael. Please, you have the floor. We have some questions. I think the first question is okay. One of the questions is, how do we mitigate the issue of youth leaving the polling units, going to the collation center, but are not allowed access? What can youth do? How can we mitigate that issue? And another question is, what kind of evidence or example can we give to the Nigerian youth to really encourage them to focus more or divert their attention to these critical issues? And somebody, of course, asked this question in the group. Let me see. Sorry, in the chat session, somebody asked, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get the chat. Okay, so somebody is asking, saying, why is this? Okay. So someone said, how can we make such critical issues be attractive to youth? I mean, this kind of issues, explaining to youth that, oh, you have to you have to take your electoral processes very important. You have to take democratic processes important. How can we make this critical issue attractive to youth? Because many are just disconnected and uninterested. A lot of people have given up on the government, on the democratic, system in Nigeria. So how can we make it attractive to them? And then what kind of example or evidence can we give to them to really bring back their interest to all the democratic processes and systems and what it should be here in Nigeria? I think this is the two major questions. If I am missing any question, I mean, please just call my attention to it. Thank you. And meanwhile, while we're waiting for our speakers to come on and help us out with this, help us out with the answers to this question, please take a minute. I even think it's less than a minute. Just take a minute or less than a minute to really give us feedback of today's section. We'll be so delighted. Thank you. Mr. Shemia Michael, Ms. Ifenla, please, you have the floor.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead first.
Okay. Thank you. Yorubas would say Egunla long I don't know the remaining. It means that the bigger masquerade comes afterwards. So let me just say my little bit so that my Oga at the top, Mr. Shemiye, would finish up because he's a man of wisdom and experience. So all these questions are kind of interconnected, right? And I would say that one thing that the point in which we are now as Nigerian youths, there are some things that we can all relate with. We can relate with hunger. Everybody at this point can relate with hunger. Everybody can relate with anger. Everybody can relate with insecurity, frustration. Everybody can relate with one chance. Everyone can relate with kidnapping. I mean, even if it has not happened to you directly, you know someone that knows someone that knows someone that it has happened to. It could even be a friend of yours on social media that posted that, oh, my brother has been kidnapped. So by virtue of relationship, it has happened to you. So I feel that if we are able to use all these pain points, I believe that there are practical ways in which we can speak to and there are ways and measures for mobilization to encourage civic participation. At times when we say civic participation, it looks like a big terminology, but it's as simple as even mobilizing people to go and vote during election. Voting is like maybe the final step. It's as simple as encouraging people to go and register to vote. You register, you get your card, because it's one thing for people to register. At times they don't go back to get their cards. At times some get their cards, but then they refuse to come out to vote. And then after voting, there is now also the aspect of waiting behind to make sure this is counted. But that's why I started from. Everybody can relate with kidnapping, with insecurity, with hunger, with anger. I mean, before this class or this session started, after the event I went for, I discovered that my phone was running very, very flat. I needed to go to an aboki's place close to my area to charge. I was there for like 3 hours charging, even though I was still needing to use my phone. But I was able to power it to an extent, and then I paid him. That is per issue. So everybody can relate with this thing. But one thing an average Nigerian cannot connect to is how all these problems are directly connected to the people we elect and the people we vote. They do not know how, as in they don't know the direct connection. And I believe this is where our assignments and where our sensitization or our awareness creation starts from. People need to know that the people you elect, directly or indirectly in that, even just having that conversation at the beer parlor, in the taxi, on social media. It is indirect sensitization. And then directly when you decide to go and vote, the people we vote in have direct impact on how the economy is and how things are in the country. We cannot go around that. We can't even avoid that. So I believe that if we're able to see it from this point of view, because say, for instance, people are talking about several issues, insecurity, education. I mean, a couple of days ago, or maybe last week, there was this thing about graduates using wheelbarrow. If there is no job, I mean, go and start using wheelbarrow to get, stuff, or just get a job, even if it means you are pushing wheelbarrow. That was the conversation trending on Facebook some days ago. I mean, and then you wonder, how did we get to this point in which we should even be discussing the proprietary and the rightness of a graduate doing an humiliating and a shameful work pushing wheelbarrow. But it is what it is, really, because is it not better than having people who are always begging you for urgent 2K? Why not go out and work? Then doesn't mean that we want to be doing such kind of humiliating jobs, right? Affecting us as a country. But you see, when it comes to civic engagement and encouraging or mobilizing youth action, we need to make sure that people get and understand the fact that the hunger that is hungering you and your annoyance, the frustration an average conductor is facing, and the frustration that is going all around, the intersection of everything is the people we elect. It's as simple as that. The guy that asked the question that said he's based in several states, he has lived in different places, but he doesn't know. I wasn't really sure of the question. He doesn't know where to run for office or something close to that. So what I would say is politics is at the grassroots. Politics is at the grassroots. Yes, politics is very, very expensive. You can't even imagine, you can't think of the kind of money that you can start working for now that would help you run for office in the next 4 years. I would be lying if I say, oh, start working, double your hustle. No, you can't have the money unless you want to go into ritualism. I'm sorry I had to say something that tough. Or you want to start doing Yahoo Yahoo. Let's just have it at the back of our mind. You cannot have the kind of money that would help you compete with average politicians, because I mean they are moving around with money from misappropriation of funds, from diversion, from fraud and what have you. We know how these things are, right? But what I would say is the role of grassroots mobilization and people in your community, the impact you've made, and the role of their pointing you out as someone that stands out. Most of the time, we make a mistake of wanting to run, and we do not have the streets, we don't have that street credibility, even in our constituency. Then why are you running? Right? So he has to start from there. So for that guy that asked that question, this is not even about all the states you have lived. It is about which of these states do you have street credibility. And of course, you can't run in a state where you do not have an origin, where they cannot, even if you're able to pass through all the INEC preliminaries and what have you, opposition will find you out and say that you are not from that state. So what's the point? So number one, you want to run in a state that is your state of origin, but then a place that you have, impact. The people know you. You might not have the money, but you have the street credibility. So in the long run, and that was what happened in 2023. It wasn't even really about party. It was about people. And then see what happened with Labour Party. People that, had street credibility that decided to just join Labour Party at the last minute, they won their election, and it was an amazing thing. So I would say that community engagement, the grassroots, what you're doing for people in the grassroots, how they know you, how they recognize you, and they are saying that, yes, they want you to represent them. Yes, money would always come in. It is what it is. Money will always, for now, until mindset begins to change, money might always or would always be a decision in politicking in Nigeria. However, if you're able to show that proof, you have that street credibility, and your people really want you. Even when money starts coming in, right? There would always be that place of, they would say, oh, we know this person. They will collect money, but then they will still say, we know this person. So we can't run away from that. And yes, I can't remember the other question, but I think that's where I would want to stop now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You can't run in a state where you don't have an origin and a place you know, and a place you don't know. I mean, a place you don't have, the impact, the street credibility. So you need to check what is my impact here? What is my origin here? What is my street credibility here before you can think of wanting to run in that particular place? Thank you so much for that submission, Ifenla. So we'll quickly go to Mr. Shemi and Michael. So we have other questions. Let me repeat some of those questions. So he said, how can we be able to, mitigate the challenge of young people, not giving access at the collation center, so they are there, but they're not given access to witness what's happening at the collation center. That's one question. And then the second one is, how do we make young people to see these critical issues as important? Because a lot of them has really removed interest from whatever that has to do with democracy or political participation or even governance in Nigeria. So how do we bring back their interest, and what kind of evidence or example can we give to them to revive their interest? I hope the questions are not just too much.
Yeah, so I think, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly, sir.
So basically, I think I'm not sure there is a right answer to action taking, because action taking globally is sparked by, initiation. Take, for example, how did the NSAS started? Nobody can particularly just say, oh, I knew the point at which it started. What we can all identify is the rallying round of how it was moving. So who started it? Which point did this start? If you go to the US, one of the greatest movements after the all-time historic movement of Martin Luther is the Black Lives Matter, of that black man that was murdered by the police officer. And then right there, some few people just, decided to escalate the voice. And then you see people, one thing that has been consistent is how people respond to actions that identify with their story, actions that identify with their ideology, actions that identify with their pain. If you watch the movie Straw by Tyler Perry that everybody is talking about now, a lot of people have even forgotten that it's a movie. It's not something that happens physically. It's a movie, and people are beginning to build momentum around the story of the fact that this is the reality. This is what happens to people. This and that. People cry watching that movie. Even me, I cried. You can imagine how terrible things like that feel. So the reaction of people towards actions that align with their story, with their pain, with their struggle, always seems to be instantaneous. Let's take another instance for the copper girl that did a video and shouted on the president and co-president, names that you are a bad president and this and that. You see how everybody immediately began. She said she wanted to do a 30-day ranting on the president is a bad president. And you see that because it is in tune with what other people feels. Everybody joined, and when she was threatened, can you imagine how everybody stood up for her? Lawyers already, we already had free pro bono lawyers that already stood up for her.
Free lawyers.
Yes, and then when they said she should report in the office, you saw how many people followed her to the office. That even the people who asked her to come ran away. This is how movement spark, and so when we say, "Oh, let us start," it is who is ready to give a voice.
Mr. Shemiye.
Am I still audible?
Yes, very, very.
Who is ready to give a voice? There's another example that is currently going on. There is a guy on the social media, he used to be a content curator, Peter Aka, who used to talk, you sinners that are in, maybe it's in Port Harcourt. You guys that are in so place, you will not make heaven. You guys that are, these few people are the closer to this, and that. In the last few months, 1 month, he has been talking about fixed election or fixed INEC something. And he has been moving from one place to the other, shouting, just talking about fixed election. He said he was going to do 30 days, countdown or something. And before you realize, Channel invited him to talk. Arise TV invited him to talk. I saw him yesterday. He was having, was it today or yesterday? Aisha Yesufu received him, to talk. A lot of people began to also join him. Action taken, just like few of us who had decided to yield and take one action or the other. It was scary, but when we started, and whatever we were doing or saying was identifying with people's story. We had people who began to, to yield their platform to us, to yield their presence, their time, to us. There was a time in this country, I was one of the young people who built the largest youth volunteer network across the length and breadth of Nigeria. How did those young people believed me and followed me? I didn't have a penny to give anybody, yet the rally ran because whatever I was saying identified with something they were interested in. So we must get to that point. Let's say, for example, during election or ahead of election, we have somebody who began to build momentum around. No, nobody can play with our vote. Nobody can do this. Nobody can. And started talking about it seriously. You will realize that you just see 2, 3 people, 5, 6, 7 people from begin to also come together and say, yes, so nobody can play with our vote. We cannot suffer and vote. And people will be, messing up with our. Before you realize, it can become a movement. And people will say, no, we will follow our vote to anywhere we are going. We will follow it to one, this, we will follow it. And then defiling INEC, what they even say, the observation register, people must register or must be accredited to. When citizens stand up to protect their rights, it will override institutional procedure, because this is us. It is our election. We want to, and this is how movements are built. It takes one person, 2 person to choose to say, oh, this is what we will do. This is how we will do it. Like the guy said that, what if they are not allowed to? We had places in Lagos where police, soldier, thugs, they didn't want people to see where they were counting election. People stood their ground, and Even soldiers could not. In fact, I saw video where soldiers began to cock gun like this, and citizens said, "Oh yeah, shoot! Oh yeah, I dare you to shoot," and they could not shoot. Okay, so we can't go that extreme, but there are still actions we can mobilize. But do we have the strength? Do we have the wherewithal? Do we have the courage to push through those type of actions? Ahead of 2023 election, I spoke with a few of my colleagues and friends and said, guys, let us see how to infiltrate the 774 local government result collation centers. How are we going to do it? Let us put young people at the spot where they are counting this result, where they are collating this result, so that all this mago can be. It was like a play, but that play became a reality at the end of the day, because I began to see people who said, okay, oh, how can we do it? 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 And for the first time, we made a history. We had youth election observation team who were present in the 774 result collation centers across the country. We had live results that were collated. We could tabulate and we could say, this is who won. This is what happened. This is how they manipulated the result. These are things that are possible if we have the wherewithal, the will, the energy to push through with them. For me, beyond rhetorics, young people have power, and I can dare tell you that we may look uncoordinated, but when things happen, we are very coordinated. We may look very divided, but just like Ifenla said, when they hammer one of us, that's when you will see that everybody connects together to unite together. When one thing run against one of us, that's when you will see that it's like it used to be like we are divided though, but why should we wait until bad things happen before we choose to stand up for something? And that is my own, admonition. Let us find more strength. And well, today, money seems to decide most of the things, because no young person wants to do anything for free again. They don't even want to build a nation for free, because it already appears that if everybody's chopping money, I cannot do anything without if they're not going to put my own. I know they do. It's a pity. That's where we have found ourselves. Unfortunately, some of us who have stuck our neck into nation building, it has been a decision we chose to. Today, when they see that maybe we have one opportunity or the other, we are here. They say, you people are enjoying and you want us to be doing this, and I just laugh. I'm like, it has not always been like this. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So, peace out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shemi and Michael. Thank you to every one of us here. We have come to the end of the webinar, and yes, this webinar will produce an article from it. So that's why we wanted everybody to give us a feedback, and the feedback form is just there. So just take this 1 minute to give us the feedback. Please input your email so that when the article is out, we would send you a copy of it, to your mail. Please give us feedback. We also want to reach out to you. We want you to be to know what's going on. We want you to be informed of what is the next step and all of that. I know most of us have talked about coalition, rebuilding a group and all of that, forming one voice. I mean, this is possible if we put our heads together. So please, the first step is giving us that feedback. And please put your email so that we can reach out to you. Yes, well, while we are at that, we would like to take a group picture. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Let's take a group picture. If you don't mind, you could just have your video open. Just open your video so that we can take group picture. Put your smiling face. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, yes, yes, yes. Please, we're waiting for other people to open their video. Please open your video. Please open your video. Okay, so at the count of 3, we will just take our group picture. So 1, 2, 3. So please, one more chance for people who have not opened their video. Please, one more chance. Open your video. Where is Ifenla? Where is, oh my goodness, where is Suleiman? Where is Adetomiwa? Please open your video. Just one more, and then we are good to go.
Is this be positive? See your eyes.
That is me, oh. Good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now thank
All right,
you so
guys.
much.
Oh, okay, just hold on, somebody. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful, wonderful connection. Thank you, everybody. Please don't leave until you fill our feedback form. We want to get back to you. Thank you. Thank you. We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you. If you just fill the form, you can take a leave. It's fine. If you have not filled the form, please fill the form. It's at the chat section, the chat box. Please fill the form. Please fill the form. Please fill the form. Yeah. Please fill the form. Okay, great. Yeah. We have 7 responses now, so more people should please fill the form so that we can go. Thank you, Anne. Thank you for giving us this feedback. She said this is a great section. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you. Okay, 8 responses. Please fill the form for 15. Okay, Fasasi has filled, Anne has filled, Tayo Ojo has filled, Samson Dennis has filled, Olubadetio has filled, I think Sam has filled, Chimezi has filled as well. Okay, so Johnson filled the form. Johnson filled the form. John Adeleke, please fill the form. Adetomiwa Victor filled the form as well, please. Want to get in contact with you. Okay, so in less than 1 minute, we'll just be cutting the webinar off in less than a minute. Okay, everybody, bye. Thank you, bye. Yes.